Coming up, do you remember when Boris Johnson, master of the meaningless slogan, came up with the phrase Global Britain? It was, of course, just another vacuous PR attempt to market Brexit as something more than just an act of blatant stupidity. And talking of blatant stupidity, it was Liz Truss, Foreign Secretary at the time, who took this empty slogan and set out her version of a new post-Brexit United Kingdom as the dominant hub at the centre of what Truss called a global network of liberty. The Brexitists wanted the UK electorate to believe that it was just the shackles of the EU that were preventing Britain from taking its natural place as the true leader of the free world. James Cleverly, our latest Foreign Secretary in this revolving door government, gave a speech this week setting out the UK's long-term foreign policy. And in this video, we'll take a look at how Cleverly's post-Brexit foreign policy stacks up against those Johnson and Truss promises of the UK as a champion of liberty. Stay tuned. If you enjoy watching the Truth to Power channel, I'd really appreciate it if you'd help me out by hitting the like button and especially by sharing a link to this video on your social media platforms. So, post-Brexit Britain, at the centre of Liz Truss's global network of liberty. How's that going? Well, this week, James Cleverly suggested in a speech to diplomats at the Foreign Office that our Brexitist government have adopted a policy to focus on long-term partnerships with fewer countries, some of whom will not share our democratic values. Fewer countries. Doesn't sound very global, does it? Some of the diplomats present were left wondering how even this limited focus could be successful, given the lack of any additional resources being made available to achieve it. I mean, usually you'd expect to see some sort of increase in, or at least a redistribution of, the overseas aid budget. But Tory cuts have shrunk that budget since Brexit, so it just isn't happening.
Britain has agency, Britain has influence, Britain has leverage. And it is my job to use it.
Well, good luck with that without allocating a budget to it. What makes the policy even more unrealistic is that the bulk of what remains of the UK foreign aid budget is currently being spaffed away on housing refugees in hotels due to the Tories' complete loss of control over the immigration process, where backlogs of asylum claims are hitting all-time highs. So instead of protecting Britain's global soft power, the overseas aid budget is being spaffed on covering up Tory failures. Government figures show a staggering number of people in the asylum system living in limbo for years on end. The number of people waiting for an initial decision on their asylum claim rocketed to over 122,000 last month. That's 4 times higher than the number from 4 years ago. The backlog is now 3 years. And for all Rishi Sunak's promises to clear the backlog by the end of 2023, I'm sorry, but we've heard it all before. That overseas aid budget will continue to be misdirected to cover up government failure for the foreseeable future, which means that Britain's attempts to win new friends on the global stage are pretty much hampered from the start. Which, when you look at the kind of countries Cleverly and his chums are targeting, may not actually be a bad thing. In his speech, Cleverly stated the government's desire to move beyond long-established alliances, saying,
We can't just hang on to the comfort blanket, perhaps, of our pre-existing friendships and alliances.
Well, of course we can't, thanks to Brexit. By comfort blanket, he means the power and protection afforded us when a member of the world's foremost trading bloc and most successful international community. Brexit caused the problem, but Cleverly argues that the solution is simple. We can easily replace that close relationship with our democratic neighbours. How?
I will make a long-term and sustained effort to revive old friendships and to build new ones, reaching far beyond our long-established alliances. We need to make sure that we're having conversations with those countries that are also being wooed by other philosophies.
So we can replace our democratic European friends with diverse countries that are wooed by different philosophies. Different philosophies. Such an anodyne-sounding phrase, isn't it? But it's very telling. It speaks to this government's view of the importance of democracy when it comes to choosing our international friends. It sounds like the new foreign policy is to suck up to undemocratic countries and overlook the fact that they're, quote, wooed by different philosophies. This is where Brexit has taken us. Cleverly also said that partnerships would be sought with countries that honoured the international rule of law, free trade and national sovereignty. All good, but no mention of democracy, no mention of human rights. These are clearly not preconditions for becoming one of Cleverly's new international chums. The previous Foreign Secretary, Liz Truss, had promised a post-Brexit Britain that would be a champion of liberty, building a global network of freedom, while her predecessor in that role and eventual boss, Boris Johnson, had coined the term Global Britain. Like all of Johnson's slogans, the phrase Global Britain lacked any coherent meaning, but it sounded great to the Leave voters as it brings to mind Britain's imperial past when half the world map was coloured in pink, with colonies spanning the world. Interestingly, in his speech this week, Cleverly used neither the term Global Britain nor Truss's champion of liberty. Instead, a senior source close to Cleverly admitted that Britain will be seeking relationships with countries that are not close to us politically or physically. Asked how Britain could compete with China's Belt and Road initiative that sees China providing massively funded, no-strings-attached infrastructure projects for African countries, Cleverly responded by saying that any country would be wise to be very cautious of no-strings deals that appeared to be too good to be true. I find that a pretty pathetic response from a government minister that is in way over his head. James Cleverly reminded me of Father Ted and Father Dougal trying to dissuade people from entering Craggy Island cinema to see a risque movie.
Down with this sort of thing! Careful now. Down with this sort of thing!
So this is basically Cleverly's message to all African countries when considering taking largesse from China. Careful now. Down with that sort of thing. Cleverly's embarrassing threat to these countries kind of mirrors that cringe-making moment when Gavin Williamson told Russia to go away and shut up after the Salisbury poisonings.
Frankly, Russia should go away, it should shut up.
This is the sort of ministerial quality of a government that thinks they're able to forge new international partnerships of such magnitude and importance that post-Brexit Britain can ignore its European partners and allies. Not to forge a new global Britain, that lofty objective has now been abandoned. Instead, the Tory foreign policy vision for Brexit Britain is to be the hub at the centre of a deliberately limited set of previously unaligned countries, regardless of their human rights regimes and regardless of their democratic freedoms. But only if both China and Russia shut up and go away.
Frankly, Russia should go away, it should shut up.
Though, just remember, the Brexitists still insist that this is the will of the people, that every Leave voter knew exactly what they were voting for.
Welcome to the Brexit, sir. I'm sorry.
Oh my God!